Hello, it's Axel from Happiness Life Coaching. And I wanted to take some time today to discuss a subject that has affected quite a few of my clients. And it's something that if it doesn't affect you, it's probably affected one of your loved ones. It's the subject of dealing with a control freak in the family, work environment. Some of you, it might be a partner. Now that's half of the issue or the problem. But the other problem might be that you might be the one who is actually the control freak and you want to change it. And that's quite admirable because, it's one of the things I love about the whole Tony Robbins strategic intervention, that we're not really big onto tags and labels. And the reason is that sometimes the label can mean that a person reasons, well, I'm like this. On Instagram, it was interesting that on some posts following psychologists, they were surprised that I'd helped some people who were actually struggling with narcissistic tendencies. And they thought, well, no, you can't cure that. They feel that can't be helped. And I agree that it's very rare because a person has to have initially a selfish reason to want to beat that. However, it is possible if they have an empowering reason. And yes, it's difficult, but it is possible. And so the whole concept of putting things in boxes, I don't really like that because it indicates that people can't change. And even ingrained habits or way of being, modes of being, can be actually eliminated. And so while I will do a video or podcast just discussing how you can deal with a control freak, I actually wanted to first do a video. My next video will actually be on some tools to help somebody who's struggling with this and wants to change it. And so as an introduction to that, I just thought it'd be good in this video to just mention the basic difference between letting go and controlling. And so letting go is basically a form of saying, I am willing to not have a control on an outcome, and I still trust that I can have a measure of happiness. I still trust that other people will have a measure of happiness. And I still trust that people can have autonomy, a degree of sovereignty over their lives as to decide what to do, what not to do. As opposed to a control freak feels that if I don't actually control this outcome, something is going to go gravely wrong. And so of course there are degrees, and of course if in your case this is a pathology, you might need some additional professional help. But if it hasn't reached the point of a pathology, then coaching can actually help you. And so control is having, this is one of the definitions I love, it's having the inner core belief that if you have an input on something and if it goes your way, the outcome will be better than if you don't. And interestingly, often that is the case. And this is what makes a control freak, because they have some experience in their life where they didn't have an input, things went bad, and once they had an input, things went well. And so they now have a positive association with controlling and a negative psychological association with letting go. Who can it affect? Well, it can really affect, there's a lot of factors and components that go beyond what I can consider here. But it is more commonly seen in people who have been a victim of physical abuse, sexual abuse as a child, emotional abuse as a child. And so a person that goes through this kind of pain can often believe that I did not have control and I suffered immensely. If only I could have control, my suffering will be diminished and I might even have a measure of joy. And so the first problem with this is that it's based on a wrong assumption. Because while sometimes in life it's certainly appropriate to have control, other times we can't have control over what people say or do. And we can't make our happiness be dependent on that. And so letting go, on the contrary, it's actually the belief that even though I do have an opinion about the way this should be, I am willing to surrender that opinion in the humble belief that life, the universe, coincidence, chance, or sometimes other people will know better. It's not the same as abdicating. Yeah, abdicating is that when it is your responsibility to decide something, you just, oh no, I don't want anything to do with that. That's abdicating. Letting go is, it's my responsibility to have an input. If it is, sometimes it's not. And so I now decide to take into account another point of view, and I decide not to try to coerce or force other people into matching my point of view. So that's the essence of letting go versus control freak. What can actually help you beat these? Well, more about that in the next video.